Hey guys, Mrhappy here, and today I'm going to do a video about the Cutter's Cry. It is a level 38 dungeon that you can unlock from an optional side quest in Ul'dah. Head over to the Steps of Thal, and it'll be from an NPC named Sibold on the eastern side of the zone in the market area. So this dungeon is the next optional dungeon you can do after the Sunken Temple of Karn, and you can do it before Stone Vigil since it's around level 38. And honestly, I feel like it's a little bit easier than both Stone Vigil and the Sunken Temple of Karn, but if you want to give this dungeon a go, maybe you want some gear, just give it a shot. It shouldn't take you too long. There's only a few things that can get a little bit annoying. So what do you need to really know about this dungeon? Well, there's a few things. One is that you're going to have to kill pretty much everything in the first few areas in order to get to the next area. And while you're killing them, these quicksand areas will appear on the sides. You just have to not stand in them. Our tank stood in them for a little while, didn't realize it, and then moved out of them, and it was fine for the rest of the dungeon. Occasionally, they'll spawn under you while you're fighting things, so you just have to move out of the way if they do that, and kill all these enemies. So as you can see, our tank is marking up the targets. It's mostly just ants and the pasty, I don't know what they call pasties. I call them snake thingies. And as you can see, there's the quicksand in the middle that's pulsing for damage, so we're just not standing in that, as well as all of the little ones around the arena. I'll tell you this dungeon's way easier than it was in 1.0 as well. In 1.0, it was very, very tedious of a dungeon, a lot of splitting your groups and doing things at the exact time. It was very, very tedious, but this dungeon's much more straightforward than it was in 1.0, in case you're wondering. So as you can see, we're killing the rest of the enemies in this room like the quest asks us to, and then we're going through here. So once you go through here, you're going to end up in sort of a twisting path. You're going to want to, again, stay along the walls and try and avoid the traps in the center of the area. There's a few treasure coffers in this area, but not too many of them. Most of the treasure coffers will come in the second half of the dungeon. And so I'm just healing away. There's really not much else to say at this point other than to try and avoid these traps, because that is really the big draw of the beginning, is to avoid these traps. It's really the only purpose, and it's really the only big amount of damage that anyone's going to take is from those traps on the ground. So we're killing off the last few enemies here, and we're coming up on the first boss room. Now the first boss almost feels like, how do I want to say? It feels like Sastasha or even like Copperbell Mines in terms of difficulty. And here she is, but we're gonna go back and get this treasure coffer first. I totally forgot about that. I was like, oh yeah, here we're at the boss. It's perfect time for the video. Completely forgot that we 180 and go get this treasure coffer in the corner here. So remember that the reason why you go to get these treasure coffers is because they have a chance at dropping ethereal grade loot, which is it's pink grade dungeon loot. It's pretty good, so you might as well grab it if you can. As you can see, you actually from these mid-level dungeons tend to get crafting materials more often that you can turn into vintage pieces. So we'll worry about that in another video, however. So this is the first boss. We call her Princess. She's the Princess Myrmidon, and she is really just an ad control fight. So our tank is going to run in. I'm fully buffed, and we're going to burn a limit break right away. You don't have to do this, but, you know, we have a full limit break anyway, and, you know, why not? You know, we're not saving it for anything special. It's the first boss, you know? So just dealing with the boss. The boss does auto attacks, you know, does sand moves, and as you can see, not really doing anything special. I'm just healing the tank like I would on any normal trash mob. It's just taking a while. And now ads are going to start coming down from the sides. So first is you have this this first one, the Marshal, and you just got to, you know, focus target him and get him down really quickly. But as soon as this phase starts, pretty much a never-ending wave of small ants is going to start spawning. So as you can see, all of these Myrmidon soldiers. So again, the tank just needs to pick them up, and the healer needs to heal through any of the damage. I throw out a few Succors here and there just to make sure that should the small ants hit anyone, that they're actually okay. And another ad that's going to spawn during this phase are Myrmidon guards, and these are just going to keep spawning, and you're just going to have to keep dealing with them while you DPS the boss. So we DPS the boss a little bit, more little ads come, we deal with the little ads, we get back on the boss, more little ads come, another big ad comes. There really isn't much more to this fight. As long as you control the ads and you make sure that they aren't running rampant and just hitting the healers and preventing them from healing, then you'll be alright. Grouping up near the butt of the ant actually makes it a lot easier for all types of tanks. If you're a paladin, it makes it easier to flash them, and if you're a warrior, it makes it a lot easier to overpower them. So I highly recommend doing that. So we're going to kill this last guard, and we are going to finish the princess, and bam, we're done with the first boss. Yep. I'm going to need that. Do I win it? I don't even remember if I win it. I think I won it. I think I actually stopped to equip it. Yes, I do. There we go. Now, this is the second part. As you can see, our party is being very vocal also, and that helps in these kinds of dungeons. Once you start getting to this point, making sure people are aware of what the plan is, making sure not to go on their own agendas and just assume that their group is doing things really helps a lot. So now you're going to start running into more enemies here. Sabotenders, which do their signature needle AoE moves, very short range, but they hurt a lot. You just want to avoid those. And at this point, you get to choose. You get to either choose that you want to stop and get all of the treasure coffers, or if you just want to, run through it and get to the next boss. My group decided to get all the treasure coffers, so we are actually going to kill every single mob here. Now, I don't know if this is for all the Grand Companies, but I know at least for the Immortal Flames that I actually have a hunting log here. I think I did it before actually coming into this group. I think I've done Cutter's Cry once before this total. This is only my second or third time in Cutter's Cry, and it's my first time healing it. So you're going to get to see me not pay attention at all in a little bit when it comes to the second boss, but we're just killing these. There really isn't anything special to these enemies. In fact, as you also notice, the traps on the ground are gone. I believe that the treasure coffers can have traps on them, because my group seemed very adamant about killing everything before getting the coffers due to some sort of trap that I wasn't aware of, because I've only done this dungeon once before and I sped through it. So I was actually learning a few things that I just don't know if that was the case, if there are actually traps that sit on those treasure coffers. If you know that for sure, be sure to leave it in the comments below, just because I didn't see it. I didn't see it the first time I did it, and I didn't see it this time I did it. So, gonna Sakura up, and now this is the second room. It's almost completely identical to the first room. I mean, the trash pulls are slightly different, but it's kind of like the first two rooms. The first two rooms it was basically just kill all enemies and then move on, that's what the first two rooms were. And these ones you don't have to kill all the enemies, but the two rooms are still identical in such a way that if you do all of the first room, doing all of the second room really doesn't feel any different. The coffers are in different spots, and the trash pulls are a little bit different, but nothing too major. See, I would want to grab that treasure coffer on the left right there, but they're like, no, we got to kill all the enemies first. I didn't understand. But you know what? I'm not the tank, so I follow the tank. I can't go off and solo the rest of the dungeon by myself, so if the group makes a call, I pretty much have to deal with it as a healer and just move on. So it's a good thing that I can speed these clips up. I could technically cut away from this, but I feel like if you're gonna show the dungeon, you might as well show the whole dungeon, so that everybody knows where everything is, especially because I'm going around and I'm getting all of the treasure coffers. So it's like I might as well show everything so I can show where all of the treasure coffers are. It seems to make a lot of sense. And I do want to say this is an exceptional pug group. Like I hit Duty Finder, and these are the other people I got, and they did exceptionally well. They had done it before. They were doing it because they were sick of fate grinding. They were communicating, and it was good. And if you're in a pug group and nobody's communicating, take the initiative to communicate. Find out if people have not done fights, or if they have, or if it's their first time in the dungeon, or how many times they've done it before. Take those initiatives, because it goes a long way with your parties. I know sometimes you just want people to know, but it can't always be that way. So we're moving in on the second boss here, and this is actually the part where I mess up and die. And I think our Black Mage, with his Cure 1 spell, manages to heal the rest of the fight. I knew that this thing did a specific mechanic, but I forgot what it started doing at lower HP versus higher HP. So here I am buffing up and, waiting to go, and so he goes, and not a big deal. I know that this boss has very few mechanics. So he breathes on the tank. He does a lot of damage to the tank, as you can see. And he also does this move where he's going to burrow under the ground. Now, he just burrowed under the ground right now. He is going to burrow in a random location and then jump up into the air. So it happens very quickly, but as long as you move to the outside edge, you should always be okay from this. So we're just DPSing the boss. He's just doing damage to tank. And I'm like, oh, this fight's going really easy. And then he does it again. As you can see, he just burst up in that spot again. Now it's this third time where I mess up entirely, die, and then my party has to do it with just the Black Mage healing. And I know we do beat it, but it's not exactly pretty. So he picked me as a target for a move that just does some damage to me. And there it was. At low HP, instead of locking on to somebody and doing the move to them, he just goes to the center of the room, pulls everybody in, and then bursts up, which is very likely to kill you. So as you can see, he's going to do it again. He pulls everyone towards the center and then bursts up. So you need to make sure as soon as he does that to start running towards the outer edge, or you'll be like me and you'll die, and you'll make a YouTube video about it so everyone can be like, you died. You're the only one who died, and you're the one making the video. I think the monk dies. But he can do the other move, as you can see. He did just do the other move. So now it's basically a toss-up between the two. And now the monk is dead. And it's all my fault, though. There's no denying that. But We killed the boss. It was okay. I admitted it was my fault. I run back and I hit the shortcut, and we move on. The dungeon goes on. The important fact is that we beat it, even if I messed up. So just passing over the loot, giving everybody stone skins and adloquiums and everything, just so I can make up for me, messing up that boss. So this is the final run. Between the second and third boss is the final run, and this is where the biggest enemies and the hardest hitting enemies are. So these pools you don't really have to worry about. They're just for decoration. These slimes do some annoying moves. They do occasionally just do a poison move, which hurts a lot. And since each one of them can do the poison move, it can stack up on the tank pretty quickly and hurt them. I don't think I had leeches yet, actually, for this. So I was using... did I have leeches? I have Adloquium and Succor, and I'm level 38. So no, yeah, I don't have leeches yet. So there's nothing I can really do about this. If you're a white mage, you can Asuna it off, obviously, but not too big of a deal. It does damage, but it's not so much that as a scholar you can't heal through it. It's just damage. Adloquiums and physics are more than enough to deal with this. As you can see, I also from time to time switch targets and throw a dot on them just to try and do some damage. Eos and Celine both do really good jobs healing these as Scholar. I think they could honestly... I know if you go back and do the pre-level 30 dungeons as a Scholar and you can only use Eos, Celine, and Physic, that Eos and Celine can solo heal the entire dungeons. I've done it on Ifrit and things like that, and it always goes pretty well. So these are the new traps that are very similar to the traps from part 1. As you can see, the blue fire that shoots upwards. When you get near it, it basically explodes. You have a few seconds to run past it, but I recommend either running by it as a group or running by them one at a time. It really doesn't matter too much. Even if you get hit by it, you can just heal it back up. I mean, unless somebody gets hit by it 2-3 times maybe, they should be alright. And especially as a Scholar with Eos constantly curing people, it's really not too big of a deal. So we're still taking care of these slimes, nothing too fancy. Again, there's really not much to talk about. We do get some of the treasure coffers, and we do end up waiting around. One thing I want to say about the boss that's coming up, it's the Chimera. It's very similar in case if you've done your relic quests or if you've ever seen the video before. It's very similar to it's basically easy mode Dorme Chimera. Dorme Chimera is another Chimera in the game, and it's also very similar to the Go-Go Chimera in where is it? Northern Thanalin. It's a Fate, and there's something a little bit weird about this one in particular, though, this Chimera. So I actually cut away from our first attempt because something went terribly wrong. It seems that the orbs, because, alright, the boss summons orbs that follow people, and it gives them a reticle to let you know who it's following. It seems that the orbs can shift aggro depending on healing and things like that. And I'm going to slow down at one point in the fight where we win, where the orb locks on to the monk, and then completely 180s and goes for me without any sort of heads up. So there's... here's the little cutscene. There I am. I figure I'll watch the cutscene, and then we're gonna cut through because we wipe on this very first time. I'm sitting here explaining the whole fight too, and then we end up dying because the Chimera simply decided it had its own agenda and that it didn't care what we wanted to do. So here I am explaining everything, letting people know that there's a safe spot to stand behind the boss, and I'm gonna show all these things that I'm explaining to my party afterwards. In the part where we're actually fighting, which should be right here. So. I'm giving Succor and Adloquium and Stone Skins and everything, so tank runs in, and I immediately run to the spot on its butt. Now, this spot on its butt is between the tail and the left-hand head, but unless your tank holds it still, it really doesn't do too much. So as you can see, when the tank dodges, he doesn't reposition. That's really not too big a deal on this fight. It's not like a dire thing. So he does a breath attack. He does a forward breath attack on his left-hand side that paralyzes, on his right-hand side that does ice damage, and he also has a tail attack. Now, it seems like this version doesn't have a tail attack, which I wasn't aware of. So that's just my fault for even thinking that we needed to be there. So he has two other moves, Ram's Voice and Dragon's Voice. When he starts casting Dragon's Voice, he will do a giant electricity AoE that'll paralyze people. If you move close to his body, however, you can completely avoid it by being it's a ring around him, so right in his vicinity, it doesn't do anything. And then Ram's Voice is a very short-range ice damage, which you just saw right there, which hurts pretty bad. So when you see that casting, you just have to run out of melee range. Very simple to deal with. Your range can stand at range, and your melee can stand at melee, and just adjust accordingly. So as you can see, there's an orb chasing people around, and this thing is very annoying on this fight. It doesn't seem to be working properly at all. And I'm going to slow it down in a second here after this limit break. I think it's right here. As you can see, I'm slowing it down. The monk had the reticule on him, but it's chasing me. And I noticed that after I healed, I did a Succor, it changed targets from him to me without ever using the reticule. So be very aware that the orbs react a little bit strange. I just start running circles because I just don't trust where the orb is going to go. So be very careful though, because he can do Dragon's Voice while you're dealing with the orb, so you can actually get hit by Dragon's Voice and things can get a lot worse from you for there. So be very careful. Just in case you're wondering, if you're ranged and your rest of your party dies on this fight, you can actually kite it around and kill it no matter what job you are, really. As long as you have a ranged attack, you should be fine. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Also, feel free to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You can ask me questions about the game, questions about this video, make recommendations for new videos. I love interacting with the people who watch my videos, my subscribers and my viewers. I love interacting with them through Twitter and Facebook, and I'm trying to answer more YouTube questions lately, but it's been getting a little bit hectic. So if you really need to reach me on any of those platforms. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you, my good pug group, for dealing with my my bad play on the second boss. And until next time, take care.